Sure. No, thank you again, everybody, for coming down and joining us online to talk through tech plans. We are staring down at the end of the third year of our first 3-year cycle and thinking about what worked really well and where we could make improvements. I think that there is a lot that we did get accomplished with the first round of tech plans. We heard from some of our colleagues that districts that had never engaged in any kind of comprehensive technology planning in the past, and because of this, they actually started these conversations, and that ended up being the powerful piece in this program, is really statewide the conversations that were had between the districts and the experts in the field who work in this field day to day and can guide the thought process. So we know that we started from a specific place and maybe some decisions were made for some reasons, and then what ended up happening is there were some there's some areas that we did really well and possibilities for improvement. So we are hoping to get your opinions today on what worked, what didn't work, what you would consider to be best practice for technology planning at the district level, or from the Rick or BOCES level, the things that you saw that worked, what didn't work, and then ideas for moving forward. What we would like to see come out of this group, I think, is the guidance that we can provide to districts in the fall and what they can use then over that next year to get to a comprehensive technology plan. But we are open. I've been talking to Mary Ann. We are open to changing some of the things that we have done in the past, not the process so much, but the product possibly, right, and what could come from that. So we're hoping to listen and to get ideas. I know Mary Ann shared some questions, so if, if anybody had initial thoughts or if we wanted to just start out.
Yeah, we just asked about what are the essential elements of a comprehensive plan, what guidance should we provide. Does anybody have examples of well-written plans, guidance, practices that you'd like to share? Any of those and all of those would be helpful. And I've unmuted everyone, so if you've muted yourself and you want to speak, please feel free. And John Campano from our office is going to take notes for us on the PowerPoint, so we'll have a record of our conversation as we converse. We don't miss anything.
I'm not sure who wants to go first. I just had some general questions. I'm new to the committee and to the new process, so as I read the survey questions, and I just didn't know what has been done in the past with basically the last kind of questions, pages 18 and 19, where, I'm sorry, more 19, the survey feedback. What has been done with that data? Has it been filled out by many districts? And then what has been done from New York State's standpoint? Because I see you asked some feedback on what they just filled out. What's been done with that information? Has it ever been reviewed? And
well, we had a subcommittee, an ad hoc sort of subcommittee that actually worked on this survey, people from the field, and one of our members here was part of that. And we did compile the feedback, particularly the first year was where we got the most feedback, because year 2, really, there wasn't much change. But we did make changes based on the feedback that we got that first year. We changed up some of the questions that had to do with connectivity and broadband, et cetera. We made some major changes there. We eliminated some questions that were causing some confusion. We tried to update and do some more clarification in the guidance. Anybody else who was part of that think of anything else? I think that's pretty much the changes we made.
I'd say we changed probably a good 30 to 40%
of the plan. Overall, it was, yeah, it was a large chunk of questions that were
trying to make it more clear. And I think when it was decided that SED would start collecting tech plans in this way after the requirements to collect tech plans from E-rate ended, that it started as possibly more for just compliance to regulation, and that we were we may have started from the original shell. Is that what happened, Maria? We started from the original shell of the E-rate tech plan and then added in some best practice questions. So that's where it started, and it kind of was a continuation on from there, and we definitely did make a lot of changes and tried to make it more clear and easier to answer the questions, but it did start as from the standpoint of compliance.
Yeah.
I would also add one thing that came from year one was that the quantifiable information from the tech plan was not as robust as what SED needed.
Yeah.
So a lot of the questions that were revised were done so they could get some more solid data out of those plans.
Yeah, that's true. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I was just curious because I mean, it's a nice thing to have at the end, and maybe I didn't know if many people filled it out, what if they got tired of filling out the rest of the 18 other.
A lot of people did. We were very happy with the fact that quite a few people did that first year, did fill it out, and the other thing I was just going to ask in terms of like school reviews. So I never see anybody reference technology plans in school reviews. So whether they're doing the DTSDE review and they're going through a district and they're trying to see a school improvement, whether it's a district improvement plan, no one never brings up technology plans. And so I just don't know. I think somebody mentioned a little while ago just in some of the feedback about it was more of a compliance-driven exercise rather than kind of an engagement or school improvement practice. So I'm not sure as we look to improve these things, sometimes these things go sitting on a shelf and only get updated but never get monitored. So I didn't know if that was
Exactly. Yep, and that's not what we want. I mean, no. The worst thing would be for this to be an exercise in filling out a form. If that's the case, we'll just put the questions back in beds and be done with it. And that's not what we are looking for here. We're absolutely looking for something that is meaningful to districts and that actually is integrated and ties into the overall district objectives. If we're looking to improve grad rates, or we're looking to improve literacy scores, or whatever the main focus in the district is, how can technology enhance and add to what the district is already looking to do? So I know that there are parts of the current technology plan that speak to that. Districts may be looking at technology in other ways that weren't asked, questions that weren't asked on the technology plan, and I think that that's where we're looking for some help in identifying, what things didn't we ask that we should, and is it too prescriptive? Is this too prescriptive? Should we provide more flexibility? I know, that districts use different things. Some districts are using, the Bright Bytes Clarity program to do different surveys with stakeholders to create different plans. Some districts are working with consultant groups. And Elements, for instance, is something that comes to mind. Future Ready is another piece that districts may be engaging with. And there are all these pieces out there that have some really good guidance for districts, and we want to capitalize on things that districts are already doing and not make this an exercise, Annabelle, as you said, in just filling out a form.
Maybe that's where, trying to figure out who needs to fill out what, because, I kind of have an idea of the connections, but if I talk as an average superintendent or one that doesn't necessarily deal with any kind of tech, I don't know basic stuff for my email working. From your smiles, you have some that in your area. No, it's a whole different realm. Kind of maybe breaking it up, similar to what the SSDA So if this is all dealt with more of a technical aspect question, you know, the line, how fast the speed coming in, those kind of pieces, that's something that, as a group, you can almost say, you know what, I want you guys, you know, my chief technology officer, can you fill this out and, you know, give us an information? This is like its own little separate piece. PD kind of falls in this, shouldn't totally fall in its own silo, but that's how many of my colleagues think of it. PD is a separate silo. The tech you just mentioned, specifically Clarity and some of these other programs, maybe those are, you know, what kind of vendors, what kind of applications are you using, either school-wide or district-wide, to impact student learning and things like that. Maybe it's another way to kind of break the things out so it doesn't feel as the one who filled it out, and along with John, my go-to tech guy, I necessarily didn't trust anybody else to fill it out because I was worried that they wouldn't be able to tell the story that we're trying to tell. And many of my colleagues in the BOCES look at it as something just to get done. So maybe having more resources from a timetable, maybe get a yearly timetable. Here's the kind of things that we should be doing as best practice from this district or this district, whatever. You know, there's technology committees meeting here discussing these kind of topics and kind of setting up so that they're not waiting until the deadline date to start having these meetings. So it's almost like a yearly calendar of things just to follow through on.
Sort of like E-Rate calendar.
Yeah.
You know, just to piggyback on that, Richard, and something that Anna Ball said too. You know, as I was driving up, and I've been tech planning with state ed for 20 years, so I've seen a lot of flavors, and I can honestly say that tech planning in school districts has never worked.
Thank you.
Hi, Natalia.
Hi, Natalia.
And I wanted to reflect on that, figure out, and Maria and several of our colleagues have talked about this a lot. And I think that having been a unofficial reviewer of 62 plans, what kept coming up was people wanting to know why they were doing what they were doing. You know, the motivation or I'm going to say motivation, incentive, and sort of why am I doing this? So the Smart School Bond was obvious. Get the right. We had a window of time. The message was clear. And this survey is very clearly attached to that. So when we talk about comprehensive instructional technology planning, it's more of a leadership. It falls in line with strategic planning for me. And I think you hit the nail on the head. There's every variety, including not doing anything to doing it really well and everything in between. And where does the survey fall in that continuum? And I think that's where people were confused. In our region, I would say 90% of our 62 districts did this as a compliance measure and rebranded this to the community as their tech plan. So that's not particularly helpful to them or to us or to, no, it did what it needed to do. It was a great instrument, and I think it has really good elements.
We feel the same. And it was, you know, the way that it's structured, it made it easy for the reviewer to go in and, you know, all the pieces were there, and it could be checked off. And in some cases, we got fabulous answers and information, and in other cases, it was just, you know.
Well, it was the more subjective things that was frustrating to look at as a reviewer. Like, how do you write a goal? Would be. But so I think articulating the purpose of comprehensive technology planning from each of the stakeholders' perspective. This is what state ed needs from this process. This is what a district can garner if they fully utilize it. This is what a building administrator, this is what a tech director, sort of a stakeholder, so people understand what their entree point is for what's in it for me is really kind of the WIFM. I think that would be helpful. We answered a ton of questions about where is it going, who's doing, what am I doing, what, and then the timeline, of course, was probably second. Like, when is this all due? And
Well, it's just like a kid in class.
Right, when's the homework?
Well, how's this going to be created? Is this exactly? Well, if we're asking for do we want a recipe or do we want meaningful plans?
Exactly.
But you need data, so you need to have a recipe.
Well,
and you got to meet certain regulations, so you have certain things have to be recipe. They do, and for best practices, hopefully they have all the same basic elements for a good tech plan.
And I guess I would ask you is what does state ed need? Like, what do you need?
So we do need data. We do need data, and there are different points that we need. We are, and by we, I'm not speaking for executive leadership, but executive leadership has asked for, you know, and they're like, well, you can get that from the tech plan, right? And I said, so some major focus initiatives. Yes, DBT is on everybody's mind, but a bigger picture is equity.
Yeah, right.
Where are there equity issues? What is happening? Is, you know, who has smart schools funding and who has been utilizing, you know, and how does that go along with instruction? Because that is the tie-in piece. But we run into problems, and I think we talked about that at our last big meeting. Just because you have the stuff doesn't mean you're doing anything with it. So we definitely understand that, but there are some places without even stuff.
Right.
So, you know, so they're looking for quantifiable information, but from a bigger standpoint, they want to know that districts are thinking about these things. This is a lot of money. Even if we're just talking smart schools and not even talking about state aid or any other funding sources, that's a lot of money that people want to know what's districts doing with this. What is happening with technology? And so we've started to think maybe trying to fit everything into the tech plan may be doing the districts a disservice. Like if we are not clear to districts about what we need, they're going to be all, you know, and it's going to be like, what is the purpose?
Right.
And so there are two things that we would like to see. One, we do need numbers, and we need to figure out a mechanism to get numbers. And the other piece is we need to know these conversations are being done in districts. This is important work. It is best practice to try to, you know, the expectation is that technology is integrated, that all New York State students are getting a quality 21st century education, and technology integration is part of that. And these conversations need to be being held at the district level. And so the district instructional technology plan does provide insight into, you know, just like curriculum plans and any other plans, what are districts thinking with technology? How are they innovating? How are they using technology to increase equity and to be culturally responsive to their student population? So those are kind of the two sides. And should they meet in the tech plan? Should we find another vehicle for the quantifiable information?
Because we also are looking at we've been asked for school level data, which obviously is not in the tech plan survey. So that kind of data is generally collected in beds.
So most of the data that we're collecting is planning data. It's not outcome data.
Right.
So are you interested in accountability to outcomes as it relates to this topic?
Can I just bring something up?
Sure.
So I noticed that the tech plan is heavily based on, maybe this is just my perception of it, on devices. Okay, and there's, you know, we're buying this, we're buying this, we're buying that, but there's no money spent or explicitly told by stated you can use this money for professional development. It doesn't do me any good to have 20,000 computers if I don't know how to properly integrate them, and if I don't give the staff the professional development to know how to integrate technology into the curriculum the right way, then I just get a collection of devices. You know. Now, going back to the accountability piece, at this moment, at least in my district, there's nothing on the Daniels rubric or anything like that that ties in that tech integration. So and the administrators are they're not knowledgeable regarding what technology integration really is. So what when they go and do their observations, they're looking at, okay, is she using the smartboard? And she's using the smartboard. Oh, is she? You know what I mean?
Use those smartboards.
Right, and that's that is not tech integration at all.
Right.
If you are replacing a worksheet with a digital worksheet, where's the learning?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so
Substitution.
Yeah.
exactly. And there you go. I was going to go to that timer model. And how can we measure that? You know, and how? So I didn't see anything explicit from the state saying, yes, you're going to have this amount of money to pay teachers to go to a workshop, or you know what I mean? There's nothing. And in my district, at least, teachers say, oh, this sounds great, but am I getting paid for it? Or you're asking me to do this in my summertime? You know, so
Yeah.
It is definitely a challenge,
And we don't have, like, money to give out for PD. We wish we did.
I know.
We really wish we did. Yeah.
That's where, you know, we've incorporated those kind of, you know, I took a teacher, put him on special assignment within my first 6 months at my current district, because I know that teachers needed somebody that they trusted, that they could go to at any time, and he could troubleshoot with them to help them along this path of, it's going to be scary because this is new.
yeah.
But if you don't do it, the kid's going to be asking for it, and now we have teachers that are doing those kind of things and making it, whether it's flipping classroom, personalized learning, and now it's the teachers that aren't, the kids and parents know who they are.
Yeah.
And we're seeing huge impacts because of the tech integration, if it's done right, not the substitution model,
Right.
but if it's really done to, you know, truly modified instruction piece. So I know I have to put PD in from the aspect, whether it's through Rick, whether it's through my BOCES, whether it's through state conferences. So even though that, like the rubric you mentioned not having in Danielson, we've purposely put in ISTE standards and stuff to kind of, this is kind of filling the gap for us. This is where we want to get to, and this is where we want to go, even though it's not officially part of their APPR.
Right.
But if they want new stuff, or they want this or that, there's some additional hoops we're having them jump through to maybe get to that level.
I wonder if it wouldn't be helpful to do sort of chunk the work so that there's the need to do from your perspective, and collect that, decide what is the best way to collect that. Because I know there's some chatter about some pieces maybe could be put back into beds, and some maybe it can't be, it needs to. But I think if we could isolate what you need to know, and then we can layer on that effective, you know, from my perspective, instructional technology planning mirrors strategic planning. It's a subset, right?
And maybe that's a way to recognize the districts that maybe it's a little extra, but maybe that's a way for this office or SED to recognize those districts that are exhibiting best practices. So it's almost like carrot. So tell us your story. And maybe there's a little, you know, certificate, or not quite blue ribbon, but you know, something along those kind of lines that this district is standing out because of.
I know that one of the things that we have been asked for, and it just seems to increase more and more, is for connections to other districts. That there are districts that say, we want to go one-to-one, we want to flip, we want to go personalized learning, we want to, you know, transition out our smart boards and do something else, you know, and who's doing it and who's doing it well, and how can I copy what they're doing.
And it's not part of Future Ready's purpose.
That is
Supposed to be.
Well, thank you for that.
Coming
Supposed
forward.
to be.
So.
Yeah.
Just
I will be there in one aspect or another. Yeah.
So just couple. I've been listening to kind of various dialogues on my end. A couple things that I'm just trying to think out loud. So anybody feel free to chime in. One was there was kind of sounded like lack of clarity of why certain things were needed in the plan. That some seem more IT related, some don't seem that way. There's a conversation about strategic planning. I guess to me the fundamental question is, what do we want out of this? So I think the tool is a good tool to get information. And when I look at the very first page, it talks about the objective is basically a data collected survey to be used for the basis of funding opportunities to satisfy SED's requirements for school district's technology plan. Like, it literally tells you why they want this. But I guess for us in this group, like, what's the outcome? Are we trying to inform strategic plans? Are we not trying to inform strategic plans? Are we trying to inspect schools to say, are you actually doing what you say? You know, because I come and I work in an urban environment. I've worked in urban environments, 2 different districts, and I can tell you that if, you know, the only things that get attention are things that get inspected. So you inspect what you expect. And, you know, if we're just going to do another plan that talks about us having 10 gigabytes of connection, but yet, you know, no one has connectivity at home, then the plan kind of, falls to the wayside. And, PD was mentioned about teacher development. And, the APPR, the Anderson rubric does mention technology is highly effective for designing instruction. So, I think, again, what are we trying to get out of the plan? Do we want it to use for superintendents to use it to inform their work? And if we do, then I think there has to be some type of, I would hate to say it, I don't think you have the capacity, some kind of accountability or monitoring of it to give feedback to districts to say either A, you did, or A, you didn't. Whenever I have a school review, I get feedback, and then that feedback's usually what we address either the following year or we don't. And, if you're not giving districts feedback on these plans and you're just collecting them, and again, maybe it may be too much for scale, all across the state, then I just think then we're shooting ourselves in the foot by being critical of the plan if we're not giving feedback, because it becomes for largely a lot of places a compliance activity.
Well, we do provide feedback. The plans are reviewed, and last year they were reviewed by the regional information centers and BOCES, and then State Ed would have the final say as far as approval goes. So there are people providing feedback during the process, but we don't have like a team of inspectors that go out and say, did you really do this, or is this just what you said on paper?
Perhaps even more important than the accountability piece would be the trends that are identified in the plans and where SED would want the focus to be. So if it is on equity or if it is on community connectivity, that perhaps it's not about just the accountability, perhaps it's about what the expectations or the future roadmap is for school districts from SED. So it's more informative and supportive than it is about, purely accountability. I think you'll run into resistance if you use accountability too much. Obviously, it needs to be built in somehow, but perhaps using it as informational would be more useful.
So from my perspective, because nobody's going to welcome anything we do that's more than what we've already done.
Right.
So we can't do more.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I would suggest, is there a way to scale it down into at least as an entree, at the beginning, not an end, and that it's whatever you need. And I actually think the survey tool is a pretty nice instrument, honestly, with some revision. And then you take advantage of the new website to just make more pointed resources, better resources, to all these other places. COSIN has planning tools. ISTE has planning tools. The SAMR model. Chunk it into categories for professional development, for IT planning, for comprehensive technology planning, for people that want to go into a more comprehensive enterprise-level planning process, because many of them aren't going to do it.
You don't have partnerships.
And then maybe highlight, maybe the RICS can inform in conjunction with here's districts strategically around the state who have self-evaluated that they've been successful, right? Not that State Ed thinks, or because you're not a adoption agency. You're not someone that says, here's the rubric for this, here's the tool for this, unless you need it, like BEDS and the survey data. So I wouldn't veer from that, because I think people have settled into that. And any disruption to that is going to be confusing again. So I would continue the same trajectory. I think it's pretty solid. And modify it, and then just resources, because I think that's what's missing. Is what does good be, and what is the tie to the state professional development plan, the PDP? That's very absent in all of that. But it should be driving it.
Very common question when we were
that comes up a lot. And what's the connection, and what office does that come out of? And shouldn't that plan be informing this information? So sort of the connecting the dots to the different pieces, and then really good resources. And I think there's some good, I think the federal government does a decent job at that on their website, to be perfectly honest. And aside from Race to the Top or ESSA and grants, they aren't really necessarily adopting anything big.
Right.
Those are pretty big, but
You mean the USDOE tech plan, the tech plan
Well, I just
part?
think their website,
Oh.
the Department of Technology, or
Mhm.
Ed Tech,
Yeah.
has a lot of that's where I got all my information about Future Ready. Not from Future Ready. I actually got it, most of
where
the
I
good
started.
information was at their website. So you want to be that and make it meaningful for the state. So that's just my opinion. I think if you disrupt this too much, people are going to get very mad.
So you think if we went to like a less structured approach, that would be?
Well, I think the survey, I think you need the structure of the survey.
I
I think I really do like the components, and I like that you require a vision and goals. What I don't like is that people are taking that and making it be their tech plan, and I don't know that we can control that, though.
I don't know if we want to even control that.
Right.
To an extent. I do wonder if there's a way to structure the question so that it's tied to their instructional goals.
Right.
Because right now they're standalone tech goals. Maybe they need to enter their instructional goals, and then how is technology going to support that goal?
Start with that.
So you're leading with your
instructional
instructional vision, you're leading with your instructional goal, and then you have this is how we're going to do technology, this is how we're going to do PD to support the technology.
Well, and I would do that in all the categories. When we talk about special education, when we're talking about the technical bits and bytes, when you're talking about professional development, all those sections of the plan should be prefaced at what are the instructional goals, because I think if you don't do that, then you get something that someone can just hand to somebody and say, here, go fill this out and bring it back. And then the summaries aren't going to be right. It's sort of backfilled.
And the conversations you want to have happen,
right?
You would be able to find out like specific dates and when these meetings took place over the last year related to, special education and technology and ELL and technology and some of those other questions. Because right now, those questions that are in there, those answers are not right. I will tell you right now up front from my school district that there was like a blanket statement and they copied and pasted. So just laying it out there for real.
I think it's going to force us within districts. When you put the questions like that, I think it's going to force those interactions within districts, and the tech department is actually going to go and talk to the special ed department and sit down and look at those goals. And you know what I mean? I think that's the trend that's going to be a benefit, I think.
It goes back to some best practices. Even just tech committee, so many tech committees are talking about, whether it's teachers or whoever on the committee, they're talking about stuff.
Right.
Right.
They're not talking about how we're going to use it and why we need it.
I want to
It's about the stuff.
Yeah.
Or, when I first started at Central Valley, the tech committee meetings, we got them all set up in each building. Now we don't have them in each building because we don't need them in each building. But the committee started out, we'd like to do this, but we can't because, how about we envision what you want to do? And it's not about the specific device of this. They're all tools, but how do you want to impact instruction? And the tech plan piece, from what I see from my colleagues and such, they're more talking about how we're going to do certain things, just to explain, special ed using these devices to help translate and read to the students, but not necessarily impacting the instruction overall. Or even if the smart board. Had a final interview with a candidate this morning. I said, how do you integrate technology in the classroom? She's smart. She's very candid. I use a smart board. How do you use a smart board? If it's just a glorified chalkboard with pretty pictures, then we haven't changed anything.
Oh, absolutely. And I was thinking back, Annabelle, are you still on the line?
I am. I just unmuted myself, but go ahead.
Okay, great. No, I was just thinking back to when you were saying, when you're talking to somebody about a school review, or when you're thinking about, preparation for those conversations. Is there anything that you could envision as being helpful for any kind of strategic conversations about moving a school forward that we didn't ask on the tech plan, but it may be a question that would be more useful in your position?
I'm looking at it from an urban principle. So my thing is, most plans are 30,000-foot view, and they don't have kind of actionable items that come into the building. So I actually don't think your survey is wrong. I think the instrument is fine. I just think about what's your goal? What are you trying to do with the information? I think it's very comprehensive. Some of the questions I don't even know the answers to in my own district. So you know, I think that it's more of what you're doing with that information. And if you are talking equity, well, who's out there championing the disparities? Because I don't hear it. You know, I hear kind of the 30,000-foot, you know, urban centers don't have connectivity in the house, you know, that kind of stuff. But I don't hear, you know, the comparison of what rural has challenges too, and I don't hear those things. So I think if New York State's going to take it from an equity standpoint, I would love to see something come across the state to show kind of the huge disparities between districts that use BOCES versus districts that don't use BOCES, and where we can learn from lessons from each other. From a school improvement standpoint, obviously we're focused on meeting state standards, and we're focused on meeting performance assessments. So, you know, we're required, you know, when you're a focus school or receivership school or priority school, whatever the label turns into as we continue to change, you know, leadership in the government, we continue to have to write these school improvement plans. But very rarely in school improvement plans is there a section that says either A, how technology will help you achieve those goals, or how technology won't help you achieve those goals. You know, the Smart Schools Bond Act, here it's kind of like a system of haves and have-nots. Some schools were the first round and they got equipment, other schools did not, but necessarily pedagogy didn't change in those sites. So, like, you know, everyone here has made great points, but I think, to me, the survey is really not the challenge here. To me, I think is, what are we looking to push as a narrative across the state that is going to that's going to help both suburban, rural, and urban centers with this data? Or is it just going to help policymakers make some decisions around where to allocate money, where to truly address some equity gaps? You know, so that, to me, that's kind of where I'm stuck mentally here, is like, okay, what are we trying to achieve? If we're just trying to collect information, I think the tool is great. To me, in turn, is what are we going to do with that information? Because I know, like, if you're a high-performing suburban district, your superintendent may write a school improvement plan or a strategic plan, but you aren't required necessarily the state to write an improvement plan, you know? Right. So that to me is like, but they're required to write a technology plan. So for that, sometimes they use that to kind of communicate with their stakeholders of what they're doing with tax money. You know, so I just, to me, I'm really stuck at what are we trying to shift the dialogue? Are we trying to do equity? Are we trying to show gaps? Are we trying to highlight best practice? Are we trying to do them all? And then I think somebody mentioned the website being a tool, which I think the website's off to a good start. And I think that could be some things that could be added. Here are districts that are doing well with technology planning. Here's what they're doing. Go visit them. You know, I think the federal government, somebody said, does a good job. I agree. They have the what works section, you know, for resources and tools. You know, I know ISTE does a lot of work. COSIN. I mean, there's tons of places that are kind of repetitive in some of this work, and it's just kind of like connecting those dots and pointing people in those directions. But from a school improvement standpoint, I'm looking at it like, how do I know my superintendent's planning these things, or cabinet, or, you know, how are we using this to leverage student achievement? And if we're not, that's fine too, because maybe that's not the goal. But that's kind of where I'm stuck at. You know, I have a diagnostic for school and district review, but there's none of those sections that talk about how we're using instructional technology to improve the outcomes of our kids. Sorry, that was a lot.
No, that's great. That's great. It tells me we need to do a better job to collaborate with our Office of Innovation and School Improvement over there.
Yeah.
No, all good things to think about.
Yeah, and I think it raises something important: is what are we trying? What do you want to do? And then articulate that. Like, what's the vision of state ed?
Yeah.
And then you have some goals under that with some action items, of which one might be, you know, moving some of the data collection to bed. Some of it may be upgrading the survey. Some might be providing best practices resources on the website. Something else might be trying to link to the school accountability office, whatever you just said. And that we should take a comprehensive planning process through this process. And nobody ever wants to do it. For the same reason nobody ever wants to do it. It takes a lot of time. But what is the vision?
But it's important work. And if we want,
we can't do it.
If we can't do it, then we can't expect anybody else to do it.
Can't do a plan.
Yeah, can't do a tech plan, then we're in trouble here.
So is the vision to overhaul this survey completely? Because that's not what I'm hearing today, but I wasn't sure what your thoughts were.
So I have thoughts, but but I don't want to just
Throw them out there?
dominate the conversation. I would like to see flexibility at the local level. I think that some people do a really great job planning, and that in some ways this survey enables people to do bare bones planning because they can pass this off as their plan and say, oh, look, I have a comprehensive tech plan, when all of us know that that's not a comprehensive tech plan, that's a survey. And so the more we prescribe, the more it will just be a checklist. But if we prescribe less, if we don't have really clear articulated guidance and expectations and possibly even models, it's going to be all over the board again. So, and maybe that's okay. I don't know, but you know, part of me was like, well, we could just do away with the survey and just ask superintendents to link us to their tech plan on their website and be done with it. But I don't know, you know.
And put all the data points in bed.
Yeah, and just have that. But I mean, we would have to collect a couple of questions for our colleagues in the Smart Schools office. But I don't know. You know, it sounds like that this tool was useful, and we can possibly take some of the quantifiable questions out and restructure some of the questions so it would be more guided conversations than.
Let me ask an explicit question.
Sure.
Is it true that in order to get reimbursement in the form of aid or funding for grants out of this department, you have to have a comprehensive technology plan in place?
You have to have approved.
You have to have an approved plan on file with SED. 100.12.
100.
Yeah, right. I know. I'm being a little, you know, being snarky, right? I know what it says. I know what it says. Thank you.
Tongue in cheek.
And so if that's the case, is the survey that document?
Currently, the survey is the form prescribed by the Commissioner of Education, which all school districts.
Which holds people accountable to 100.12.
Yes.
Right.
So that is the current.
So that's the accountability.
That's the account. I mean, it is accountability.
And
whenever
we tell people that, they go, oh.
That was a huge education curve. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh.
And it's not just Smart Schools. Like
no, it's not.
No.
It's BOCES aid and grants.
Yeah,
right. The ETT. You couldn't get an ETT.
A year, and I'm still clarifying it with school districts about what that actually. It's not just Smart Schools.
No, it's not just. It's attached to yes.
From
SED.
And school districts are required to comply with commissioner's regulations.
So maybe it's about slimming. I still think through the portal isn't entirely a bad thing. You hear that? I hear that. I'm glad this meeting is not being recorded.
It is.
I heard it, Maria. You can't believe it.
Yeah. So, but maybe it really is about just a slimmed down version of it, and more than just Smart Schools, but because districts are doing it as compliance, then there is a place at the end to attach your comprehensive tech plan.
Yes, there is.
And then you could do something with the blue ribbon school idea as far as recognizing districts who have, you know, quality planning processes and plans that they're actually following.
Actually following is the key there.
I had it that way.
Yeah.
Hey, look at this beautiful plan, but they're not actually doing it.
I think that that might be a little far off, the blue ribbon idea, but whoever mentioned self-identifying as having really strong programs, that may be a possibility that we could.
Like Utica National Insurance Company, any schools with them, you can apply for their award every year. And it basically gives you, transportation's broken out in a whole point system. You got to provide documentation for certain things. They have documentation. You're basically going through a checklist to do those kind of things, what's transportation, whether it's building safety, security, those kind of pieces. And point range scores, titanium, platinum, bronze, whatever the case may be.
Titanium.
Yeah, titanium's the highest level. Like, okay, it had to be something bigger than, I guess, platinum, or whatever it is. But, I mean, that's something where it's even a self-check.
Right.
You know, they do look at them, and once you go through it the first time, as long as you maintain certain records, you know, it works out pretty well. The first time through tends to be a little bit busy. But some of the pieces to take off, if some of the stuff is more the data that you need that you can be incorporated in beds, by taking off and putting it in beds, it looks like you're shortening the survey, even though beds may be getting longer.
Right.
When in reality,
They're not connected.
we have people that
Right.
help us with the beds data.
Right.
It's a terrible thing to say.
Well, and people have been doing beds for so long. It's just institutionalized.
Right.
Oh,
It is.
I mean, if you want data, that's the place to collect it.
Oh,
Yeah.
And you know that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that in some ways it's okay if that's the data people, because it's how many computers are in your building.
Right.
Exactly.
What is your what is your
Right.
connectivity speed? What is the robustness of your Wi-Fi network?
Right.
You know, how many full-time equivalents do you have as teachers on special assignment or specifically focused on tech integration? Those are the types of things that those numbers maybe don't require a leadership team to have in-depth conversations. It can be
Because they're inventories.
They are.
The
It is an
software is
inventory.
an inventory.
Yes.
The tech profile, for all intents and purposes, is an inventory.
We haven't given any examples of best practices for those kind of things. I've seen a number of districts where they're just trying, well, okay, I think we have this many here, and just kind of not how to manage, but how best practice for keeping up to date on those kind of things. The inventory piece tends to be a tough road for some people.
So what if, because if the inventories can inform the plan, right? So maybe that's a way to connect that. So you have, you're going to have your budget, which is a financial inventory, you have your equipment inventory, your software inventory, and they should backward inform your technology plan. They're attached to appendices or whatever.
So basically, beds are due by
October
now, but then the data is truly done by a certain date. That bed data should be used to inform your tech plan as you go forward. So it's like almost your bed data is your first step in that calendar. Well, your first step in the calendar is you work over the summer before the school year to really talk about the instructional goals as related to education technology, your PD, and everything else. And then beds is like your next piece. Here's your data, the stuff, and things like that, your connectivity, and then that should help inform other pieces for your plan going forward. And so when that's due at the end of the year or the following school year, it's just a cycle that normally just flows, hopefully.
Well, in that section in this plan, you say refer to sessions of the best data, right? So that they're cross-referenced back and forth.
So another benefit, I think, to putting some of this quantifiable data back into beds is that beds is annual. And we are not anticipating annual updates to the tech plans. We're going to go on a 3-year cycle. So that's good. Which I think will be helpful to districts. This is, in order to do this well, it's going to take a while. And, there are, believe me, I know, many competing priorities to doing tech planning. So if we can put it on a 3-year cycle instead of requiring the annual updates for the entire plan, I think that may be, yes.
And then the beds is school level too. That's the other big difference.
It would be so nice if there was a way that people could use their own beds data to analyze their computer-based testing readiness. An interactive dynamic tool that they could do their own reporting out of. So that's way off. I get that, but that's how you're going to make it meaningful for them. Because we did a,
Shane is thinking.
we did a,
I gotta write something down.
well, we did a comprehensive, we did a, what did we do? Back when computer-based testing first was a glimmer in anybody's eye with PARC, we established a planning process just for that because districts didn't know if they were ready and they were being asked to know if they were ready, and this is before anybody had any tools. So we came up with our own planning process. And it's exactly what it was. It went, I mean, we did some visioning and goals, but really it wasn't. It was inventorying, like, what do you have, what building, what room,
Was that
where
before
are
or
you?
after the TRT?
Before.
Before. Okay.
And people literally were desperate to find out if they were ready, because at that point, parks seemed imminent, and the timeline was undefined, and they were panicking. So, and what they found helpful, I did a formal process with probably 10 districts. It was, you know, we're suburban Manhattan, but they were so happy because at the end we were able to say, here's what you have. You know, you identify what are your testing rooms, how close to the equipment, where's the equipment, where will the students be, blah, blah, blah. And there were a lot of unanswered questions like concurrent testing, the length of the window. But even without that, they were so happy because we gave them a report back that said, here's kind of your inventory of what you've got and where it is, and some things to think about. I mean, we added that part. You know, here's some things to think about, and here's some unknowns, that variables that we just won't have answers to. So plan on worst case scenario. And they were really happy with that. And so that's why I say, if you're already collecting the data, if there was a way to get it out in a meaningful way, so they could do their own reporting relative to computer-based, because that's going to evolve over time too, right? What tests, what grade level, 3-8 is immediate, high school regents will be coming.
Sorry.
And that will motivate
I'm a dreamer, I know.
That really will motivate people to do it and make sure it's accurate.
You mentioned something you said before about, you know, that you also said about, you know, districts not knowing who's doing this or doing that or doing this. Is BEDS data like the ETAC problem? Is there things that you could even put into the BEDS data or since it's a yearly basis where certain things districts are doing, the data, you know, if a district's one-to-one, maybe it's a checkbox. Maybe, you know, it's almost like the checkbox that we're doing these kind of things. So now you have a repository of districts that are doing it. And if I, you know, as a superintendent, if I could look up and see if we have the BEDS data report-wise, or however that is done, not just a report, if it includes a report card, whatever the case may be, and go, oh, I can call my colleague. I didn't realize.
Yeah, I thought of that in section H of the survey with where we talk about community connectivity.
Or you just kind of make that as part of the.
Is there a way that we, instead of doing like changes in district enrollment, changes in staffing, changes in funding, those kinds of questions, if you do things like you put a checkbox next to community connectivity, you put a checkbox next to personalized learning, you put a checkbox, and then you have them, if they do it, then they describe how they do it. It would be like a streamlined way of getting a high-level overview of who is focusing on some of these trends within technology.
The bright clarity and that kind of thing.
Well, you could even have them not rank themselves, but where they are in the development.
Yeah, like 1 to 5. We're just,
it's sort of like a, beginning, developing.
Themselves in a way.
Sort of. Just plot where they are. Because then you could actually extract that and have some really meaningful statewide data that say, in its chunks, for anyone that's interested in personalized learning or student agency.
Right.
Hear people that are beginning, and if they're near you, you might want to work with them, or hear people that haven't, they've been doing it for 3 years.
Those that feel like they're knocking it out, or they kind of have a good idea, you know, Nagler down in Mineola. I mean, Apple, I mean, he's definitely a great example. He could tell the story of their piece of one-to-one and they're doing it with Apple.
Maybe it's years having worked on it, not labeled. Because we did that, INACOL did that with, when we started with the online learning survey that we ran out of this department with all the BOCES. One of the things we asked people were, how long have you been doing things? Not sort of where, you know.
And what results?
I think I mastered this, you know. Everybody said, you know, you kind of make your own conclusions when you know someone's been working on something for 3 years versus 1.
Then if you have a results attached to it, I know our teacher at the high school who flipped the class for Algebra 2 generates the best results we've ever seen in Algebra 2. Not just in Common Core, but going all the way back. And he was hesitant. He's like, I don't think I'm going to do this next year. It doesn't seem like it's making a difference. By far the best results we've ever seen. I mean, almost 80% passes is also a place for districts to share these success stories, so people aren't afraid to reach out, and maybe leveraging, ISTE, NICE-Gate, COAST, and things like that.
I think that's one unifying thing is what's everybody else doing.
What's everybody else
doing? I think you hear it, we hear it, districts ask it, schools ask it, teachers ask it.
Well, the council superintendents, you can ask the questions, anybody else doing that? And some of the questions that are asked, I'm like, really? You don't know that?
It's even a fun
basic question sometimes.
website, what's everybody
But
else
now
doing?
the council's done a repository of all
Yeah.
those questions and any feedback they've gotten, keeping things kind of anonymous, but so that people can go in and use it as a resource bank. Sometimes I just like to peruse it just to go.
Well, not to be a
learn
checkbox,
something.
do you want your district name included in any public information?
Well, yeah, and that would have to be.
They have to volunteer.
Opt-in.
Yeah, opt-in, exactly right, or
But you
opt-out.
could still.
Yeah, opt-in or opt-out.
Well-
Oh, it's the opt.
I like opt-in.
I like opt-in.
Oh.
Yeah. Everybody should be opt.
Most people do. Depends what side of the opt-in you're doing.
Exactly. This hits so many different pieces. We've been trying to figure out how to do that. John, you're taking notes, right?
He says yes. I'm taking some. You're taking some. We'll have to.
And it's being recorded.
And it's being recorded, right? So
Oh,
we
good.
can always go back and
What
listen.
I do on this survey, you just want to get the brass tacks,
Brass tacks.
is put the vision for state ed up at the top of it.
Okay.
This whole, like,
Yep.
what's not, the introduction of this is lovely, but you don't need it anymore.
Okay.
The way it is, and nobody read it. But I think it's important that people don't get this in it, and they don't want to have to do the same thing, right? I actually don't know what it is.
I don't know.
You mean state ed's overall
Or
vision?
No, state ed's vision, I know.
Oh, okay.
State ed's
The tech
vision.
technology department.
Right.
The tech plan. What's the vision in your tech plan?
I don't think, and because I was on that committee, I will be honest, I don't think that when we started that there was one.
And this was before me.
Right, this was before.
Well, we're not holding it against
Yeah.
any of
All
it.
right. Yes. Okay.
I know I swore at the
It was
computer a couple
before-
times.
yeah,
but I
yeah,
put it in.
I
I
all
would
of us,
say
yes.
that the
I was there in the
driving
beginning,
vision-
and Marie and I were both
Right,
there, so.
the driving vision purpose was compliance originally. And then over time, we really talked about it morphed into a conversation about best practice and about developing a tech survey
Right.
that was meaningful and provided a high-level overview. But originally, it really was about 100.12. So now that's shifted even more since you've been working on it.
Well, I think because we've all been working on it, and now what I'm hearing is that not only is the vision to really have districts engage in best practice, but also an added benefit for districts to find connections with other districts. Like it could even be bigger than what
Community
we have
building.
now.
So that, you actually have an opportunity
Yeah.
to.
Yes.
You could have an opportunity, and I don't know if it's possible. to
Well,
sort of
we'll float everything up.
change
up.
people's vision of what the purpose, not the whole department, not the whole organization, but at least this department, of what it is you're trying to do for districts. Right? And be more resourceful in helping them.
And a
And
hub, in a way.
It's like a community.
Yeah.
And all of us know that state ed and just all the departments are, under a budget. So trying to make those connections, and I know there's other colleagues out there that would not, in a heartbeat, I know who I can call that's going to offer advice on these kind of things, whether it's legal, whether it's tech, whether it's whatever the case may be. I know there's colleagues out there, whether it's superintendents, whether it's administrators, whether it's leaders at the RIC, things like that, that would be a sounding board for people to kind of be almost an ambassador to those kind of aspects. I think that's something we can grow and break down some of these silos.
Are you talking about community of practice type thing, or not? It kind of sounds
Why not?
like that.
It's almost creating PLCs and
Why not? I mean, you could just be the governing agency, or you could partner.
Well,
I mean, you have to be both. You have to be the governing agency. I get that. But
for the things that we are required to govern. But more than that, if we can help form the partnerships and reinforce the partnership, I mean, we wouldn't be able to do anything without the partnerships that we have in the field. And one of the reasons we wanted and needed this committee is to help guide us. So we definitely want to do as much as we can. We are strapped. But luckily this is technology, and there's a lot we can do with technology to help make these connections. We have pockets of such amazing innovation going on across the state. And I was talking to a district superintendent, and he said, you know, in the BOCES right over there, they're doing something that we've been trying to figure out how to do, and they're already, so even at the BOCES level, you know, we could do a better job. So there's a lot being done, and I know that with your, you know, algebra teacher, that man,
who was shocked. He thought it was going to go great, but he said, you know, Mr. I'm just going to go back to the results.
In 1 year.
He couldn't believe it.
And other, you know, principals, superintendents would love to hear stories like that, I'm sure. And so this, you know, this could be really good.
What would be the class?
Google? Getting started.
Oh, yeah, you're funny.
Hey, to throw that out there.
Determined.
Yeah, because, you know, this all sounds great, but maintaining a portal like that is very labor-intensive.
It is,
So,
yeah.
so I don't think there's anyone here that would pretend that that's not true, and that's not step one.
Right,
I
no.
would start with this visioning
Yep,
exercise.
that's
It really
the important thing.
whether we help you do it or you go back to your think of vision. We can't really inform the survey question or even parse out best data unless we know what the vision is, and then identify 1 or 2, maybe even 3 goals underneath that vision, and then we can attack that very rigorously. One of the goals is an equity goal. You already articulated that. This communities of practice might be another goal. I'm just brainstorming. I don't know if there's a third one, but maybe those are 2 things. We need communities of practice, and you need to ensure equity of access to technology for all students in New York State, whatever it is. But there's got to be an overarching vision.
And then the plan.
And then if you have vision and you have goals, then you just write up some action items and it all falls into place.
Easy.
There's got it all figured out. It is a system. That's what makes it,
We were just doing it this morning.
Yeah.
It's fresh on my mind.
I just did it last Thursday.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you have a tip of your tongue, right?
Right.
So having done this, having been through this, what are the pieces that did make sense that we should, or conversely, what are the pieces that really were just not necessary? Or did we forget something?
Right.
So I can only speak from a RIC perspective, because I think if a district answered the question that I'm about to answer, they aren't going to say the same thing. I found the emphasis on looking at goals and focusing on, like, the professional development, it sort of forced people to look deeply at something that they skim over the top, but the conversation needed to be facilitated. So from a RIC perspective, it was very helpful for us to be able to engage with people to say, well, let's talk about your professional development plan, and let's talk about your PDP, and where are all these structures in place where you inform your professional development? How does it happen? And let's write that piece. And it really, we got, you know, a lot of professional development committees would meet in the districts with us, but it has to be facilitated by somebody that actually knows how to facilitate that conversation. Some districts have it in place, and in some places the RICs hold it, in some places the BOCES do it. But I found that incredibly helpful, and I think they found it helpful because then they built the timelines, and they were able to sort of intrinsically say, oh yeah, these are all the places we get our professional development from, and hey, don't forget, we did that, and we did that, and we did that. They don't really have that all in one place. So I found that incredibly helpful from a RIC perspective, and I think by association, the districts found it helpful. I just don't know if districts found that helpful as well. I guess to Richard, anyone out there.
Did the tech plans get shared Like, did your tech plan get down to in the classroom level?
No.
Were you on the committee?
Yes. Yeah. We didn't share I mean, it was shared. Quite honestly, I don't think people picked it up and read it or opened up the portal and read it. But we kind of translated what we wanted with different. We translated the information in a way that we knew teachers would kind of understand it. Like, these are our initiatives. This is what we can do. You know, this is what we have in place right now. We did that at different presentations during different staff meetings for all the different buildings. So in my district, we have a technology leadership council, and so the three of us who are the leadership council, we on like the second week of school for the first staff meeting, we talked to each of the building principals and said we want to talk about technology and kind of, you know, let them know what are the initiatives for the year, what are the changes, and where are we going, what are our mission, you know. So that's how we kind of did it. But and the document is posted on our website, but I don't know if people actually pick it up and read that, you know. That's why we felt like we needed to translate that.
So maybe something about how are you going to bring this information to your staff, maybe, or how is it going to get beyond the leadership team to the teachers so that everybody shares in the vision.
So communication plan.
Communication plan.
Plan. Even
articulating it beyond.
That's one of the things, to say
Right.
stakeholder, like,
Yeah.
what's your communication plan to the community, to the administration?
Yeah. We did a
Teachers,
presentation to
to
the
the
board,
students.
for example, and we usually have technology update presentation to the board, you know, and we kind of share that stuff. But at the very beginning, when we did the year when we did the plan, we did that specifically. And actually, my colleagues and I created a slide presentation. You know, we went to 7 different buildings and we did the same. You know, it also helped that we kind of lumped everything together into what the technology department is at our district. So we wanted to teach people, you know, what our roles were, you know, what that I do, what is it that the network person does, what is it that the data person does, you know, so that, because there's a lot of people who are like, they don't know what we do, and I thought that was a good thing for people to know what we actually do in our offices. But then lumped with that, it was like, here are our initiatives. This is what we're going to do. This is what we presented to the state. This is the data. You know, we have little pie charts or whatever. So we kind of showed that to the staff that way. It was a one-time thing, though. We did it, you know, the very first staff meeting for each of the buildings.
And there'll always be contingent that says, oh, I didn't know about this, no matter what you do.
Oh, yeah.
However you put it out, you've got to at least take some time to look at it or chat about it or something.
Yeah. So I agree that having a question there that says, what is your vehicle for communication? Are you going to make sure that this is, you know, communicated to everyone in the district? It's important. Then there are many vehicles for communication. There's, you know, like I mentioned, the little tour we did for all the buildings, the slide presentation, which was posted on our website, plus the checklist plan was posted on our website as well. We have a technology cabinet for the district, and so the tech liaisons, which are part of the cabinet, are spokespeople. So every now and then, I require them to have a monthly meeting with the principal and also share things to the staff. So that's, but I don't know what others.
I wondered if Claudia or Elizabeth wanted to say anything. We haven't heard from them, and they are on the webinar.
Oh.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I've been kind of quiet. I've just been trying to think since I'm actually since I'm a teacher, I've been trying to think about it more from a teacher perspective and what I would like to know or how things would be shared with me from the district level. And I think, especially as a librarian, I try to think of like what the vision of the district is, or mainly my school is, and then how I can help the teachers maybe attain that vision or help the school get to that vision. And some of that kind of comes back to the PD that was mentioned earlier. So as a librarian, I have access to all the teachers, so I can usually provide some training and things like that. Not sure if that helps with what we're talking about, though.
Yeah, it does.
No, it absolutely does.
Do you know what your school's vision is for technology?
So unfortunately, no. I spent some time looking for it, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah. And you're with Passages Academy, right?
Yes.
So you work specifically with incarcerated youth. Right?
That's right. So we kind of, I would say we're a little behind on technology just because our priority is safety with our students, because we have a lot of privacy issues with nobody can know who they are, and a lot of the fear is that they would communicate with the outside world, and then a lot of the information about their cases will get out. So we usually have to have a lot of restriction on how they use technology.
And then there's, well,
Yeah, we have.
yeah, and there's data privacy issues for everyone too, so that is something that, you know, to think about as well for all students.
Yeah, that's a huge point, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So as everyone was talking, they basically hit every point that I had written down and some of my thinking about it over the weekend. I think maybe I would just reiterate or expand that when you were talking about letter H and the check boxes, I was starting to think about how that might tie into the evaluation and the monitoring, which is in letter J, and maybe how those could be combined if you did the kind of like sliding scale, where are you in this process? And maybe that would help districts to really understand what they're doing and if they're making any progress towards their goal or not. And I think that the idea of having a vision for the tech plan in general is great, and that should be communicated. And I wonder if, to the gentleman that just spoke to his point, that maybe it's necessary to not just have the vision for the tech plan, but then in there have the district have to put in their vision prior to even moving forward for the rest of the survey, so that can kind of guide them or guide their thinking for the rest of the questions.
That is a very interesting part. I just want to introduce everybody. This is Rose Leroy. She's our Director of Data Systems and Educational Technology. If you don't know Rose, all of our colleagues on the phone, Rose just came in to say hi, apparently. They let you out of a meeting.
You're just long enough to say hello and thank you. Thank you for the work you're venturing out and doing, because it's not going to be easy and it's not going to be short. So keep working at it.
All right.
Thanks, Rose.
Yes.
I do think one of the thoughts that I had around curriculum and instruction was that particular question that is required for smart schools. That's the only question in there outside of students with disabilities and assistive technologies that's really asked. And it doesn't get to the heart of how they're integrating technology. And so sometimes in that section, I think that we need to think, what do we really need from that? What do you want to hear about how they're tying together, how technology is supporting? Because that section right there is pretty vague.
Would you said the whole section, curriculum and instruction, or?
Specifically question 1. Yeah. I know we need to leave that, but I think we need to build on it a little bit.
Right. And I think that was a lot of the feedback.
That was a lot of the feedback in that area. And some of it could be answered by realigning the vision and the goals section with instructional goals. And then how does the technology support your instructional goals? But that section could use a little bit.
Well, and I'd move it up.
Yeah, I would.
Put it as one of the first sections.
I agree, because that's really what the focus now is.
I've got you. Yeah, rather than take the inventory first, then you go.
It is a driving factor for us.
Right.
Right.
So I think there's some sense of order to the survey,
right,
as if it was sequenced,
yes,
even though it's not. And if there's that belief, then if this is filled out properly, it'll scaffold from there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, when we do comprehensive planning, we have it divided into 3 areas: leadership and vision, teaching, learning, and assessment, and infrastructure and technology. So that's how we structure like our comprehensive planning processes with schools. So that's like.
What did you say? Leadership and vision, curriculum, instruction, and assessment.
No, teaching, learning, and assessment.
Teaching, learning, and assessment.
And then infrastructure and technology.
So COSIN's framework,
So, yeah, and that's
Right,
usually
so-
where,
where it comes from, right?
Yeah.
So COSIN's framework breaks this down into leadership and vision, strategic planning, ethics and policy. I'll leave this with you, Shannon. You don't have to write it all down.
This is really good.
Ethics and policies, instructional focus and professional development, team building and staffing, stakeholder focus, and then information technology management, and that's where all the bits and bytes is. And then communication systems management, business systems management, and data management. So I'll leave this with you. It's from the framework. This is actually the evaluation rubric for CTO.
Oh,
But it follows the framework, and the framework is used for everything.
okay.
And we're doing.
And do you use this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use that. I use all.
For your tech planning?
Yeah. We actually have a tech planning and coordination service.
You do?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Now, what culture is that?
554. It's planning. It's professional development planning. Not
Right.
instructional
Okay.
projects. It's all about doing comprehensive technology planning out of. We're using model schools.
Okay.
And we're using 7710.
So you're using 7710. Tell me again, what code?
I'm using 554, but it belongs in 7710. I'm using 6368.
6368.
It actually belongs. It doesn't belong there, but while
Right.
everything's being rewritten and I'm working,
Mm-hmm.
where it lives right this minute.
Okay.
Easily
It's the
can be
connection.
moved.
Being in 7710 because it actually makes that connection for schools when they're not just buying stuff.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right, and I don't.
I know we're talking in code here.
I know. I just wanted to back up for our colleagues who don't know these numbers. A COSER is a cooperative service where school districts can contract with their local BOCES for services and receive aid. So I know that is not available to our Big Five. And 7710, that number that we were throwing out is specifically for the RICs, the Regional Information Centers. And then 6368 is model schools, and that's the ed tech professionals who may be doing the technology planning from the RIC. So I know Annabelle is Buffalo, yes, I'm sorry, is Buffalo, and our Big Five colleagues actually work directly with state ed. They don't go through
Right.
RIC.
We work with Eric Stockmeyer in Buffalo, so you know, Annabelle, that's our contact point, Eric Stockmeyer.
So anyway, didn't mean to interrupt.
That's
but
right.
yeah.
Just as an aside,
Mhm.
we think that tech planning and coordination is going to be one of the biggest growth areas for our business.
Wow.
So,
And we have it as well.
it's good, looking forward, I would say 3 years. I would even say 5 years.
Yeah.
It's a 5-year, it's probably the biggest growth area other than professional development will continue to track that way. But it's relatively, it's not new for us. We've always done it. It's always been available. But we think it's actually we're going to hit a majority of our districts.
And our district's looking for that in addition to just the compliance piece of the state ed piece, that they're actually looking to
Be comprehensive.
Yep.
to do planning.
Yes,
That's great.
because
Okay.
the role of the chief technology officer has just gotten too big,
Mhm.
and they can't tie it all together. They can't look at this strategically because there's so many elements. Well, you know, and there's just not enough. They just can't. There's too much work.
Yeah, I have 2 people. I have one that's really more the tech side that has most of him on that side, and the other person is basically my TOSA is more the instructional side, but they come together as
Absolutely.
Oh, that's
team.
interesting.
Why we have that TLC, that
Mhm.
leadership council in my district is exactly why.
So you have 3 people doing the job.
Well, yes and no. I mean, essentially, we have our network coordinator, network and infrastructure coordinator, who's, in charge of all that networking, card filtering, all that stuff, servers, all that. And there's the educational technology piece of it, which is me. And then my other colleague does the data.
Mm-hmm.
So the three of us feed off of each other. And we have so many things in common, our roles overlap in so many different areas.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, we have very distinct, separate distinct roles. So
Absolutely.
that's the reason why we did it that way.
And we've talked to some of our colleagues about this, and they've echoed the same thing from a rigor perspective. It is, we're actually looking for outside professional development for ourselves so that we can make sure that we're on top of our game with it.
Oh, really? Okay.
And that we have the best set of skills to approach it.
Besides the COSIN model, are there other models that districts are using? Rich, are you using something specific, or do you know of any other?
We're still in the infancy of trying to get things moving along. So a lot of this has just been kind of tech plan and stuff. A lot of this has been my knowledge base and working with colleagues at Maria and people at Rick. I had the full vision. Here's where we want to go, and kind of make it happen, and then let's put it on paper so people kind of understand it based on feedback that people are giving, things like that.
This year we're going to do that even more.
I know, it's crazy. But there's many others out there that, hey, the ed tech realm, it's tough. It's, as long as your email works, that they can get on the stated website, that's their idea of tech. So
Yes.
it can definitely change and impact education if you allow it to, and provide the PD to do so.
I talked to one of your colleagues, and he was very proud that his elementary school students got once a week computer lab for 20 minutes. So there are, again, pockets of really great stuff.
That goes back to the standard piece. Well, this is the grade level that should all know keyboarding.
Yeah.
No, you got to embed it in the application. You just can't have it. That's a different committee.
Oh, that's a different committee. We'll talk keyboarding.
Tech literacy.
But it goes along the same rounds. It's the same concept.
No, it is. It is. And I know that he was running up to concerns from parents that his parents wouldn't support it. So there's lots of pieces that fall into this. And
there is.
Parents wouldn't support too much technology.
Screen time.
There's a lot of concerns about that.
There's
Privacy too, and
legitimate concerns that as change is hard, but we need to make sure that students in New York are prepared for, as we say, college, careers, and citizenship. And you just need to have knowledge, and this is a piece to make sure that students are getting the best education possible. So.
Talking to a colleague in Utah, there's 10,000 jobs available right now. If you have a background in any kind of coding or anything else that you start out with, not even an associate's, $60,000 in Utah. Well, and that's just Utah. Right. So, I mean, that was his latest number.
Mission U? Mission U University. It just started this year. It's a university that actually just targets careers that are in development right now, that are booming. For example, business analysts. It requires that type of background of looking at data and being able to tell a story with the data and predict the future of that company with data. So, and they are asking, it's all free. You just enroll, and they pay for your education. You have to Google it. It's
Mission U.
Mission U. I saw that, Ada. Where did I just see that pop up?
Recently it came up.
Do they advertise, or else I read something about it?
What I like about it is it really focused on what the gap of those jobs that we don't know that are going to exist. Technology is developing so quickly. In 10 years, 5 years time, we don't know what is going to be the job that is going to get, top for our students. So knowing that there are those possibilities for our students out there, and now that we have them in school, how are we going to build those skills? Because it's beyond the school. Yes, it's just the skills, and that's why if you look at that site, it tells you, I don't care about your SAT scores. I don't care. Our admissions procedure is actually meeting you, interviewing you, giving you a problem, and seeing how you solve it.
Did you say it's free?
Yes. It's
Kind of
free.
like
Yeah, where's
state ed tuition. I couldn't help myself. I couldn't help
It was
myself.
right there, wasn't it?
It was right there. I'm going to get ejected out of my chair.
My boss is Commissioner Elia.
Just FYI, it's free when you get a job. You have to give a percentage of your salary back. Just FYI.
Oh, you have to give a percentage of your salary?
Yeah, there's the,
Oh.
Yeah, so the catch is it's free, but then you get paid, and then you got to earn at least $50,000, and you pay back 15% of your income for the first 3. So that's all. Just FYI.
Sort of like when you pay a placement agency to get you a job, and they keep a percentage of your salary.
Yeah.
But if you don't get a job, you don't owe them anything, right?
right.
Yeah, that's the hope, but.
Interesting.
And there are companies there that are telling, they're saying if you are a graduate from Mission, I will hire you, like when you graduate.
Wow. Very interesting.
What I like about it is that it does not look at all the standardized data we get from our students. Our students are much more than those numbers.
You mean like GPA and stuff like that? Yeah.
Yeah. There are kids that are brilliant, and they're just not good test takers.
Right.
So those
I know.
numbers are not very accurate. So I like that about this program.
A lot of different resources. Wow.
There's a lot to think about there. All right. So first step is vision and goals.
Yeah.
Next step is revising the actual survey to figure out what are the categories that we need, what is the order in which we need them, and what pieces can come out of the tech plan and go into bed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then from there, creating guidance around those pieces for both stakeholders so they can understand the importance, and for conversations so that whether you're working with a model schools or a RIC facilitator, or you're doing this in district, you can have a guideline for how to have these conversations to make them meaningful and connect to your district strategic plan.
That'd be great.
So Sarah, you can knock that out. And,
No problem.
June of 2000.
Oh, there's 6 weeks
But I
left.
think we have some artifacts. I mean, yeah, I think there's a ton of information out there.
Yeah.
You know, this vision doesn't have to be a big, heavy lift. I think we can write the vision. I mean, we bullet point it. We can wordsmith it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that will be our takeaway, Marianne, is that
Vision
we
and goals.
will, yes, and we will write that up to our best understanding, float that up. So in 3 months, we'll get back to you guys, and no, I'm teasing. No, we'll get that approved, and then we will go from there.
And is that something we would bring back to the full ETAC or to discuss, or would it just be a decision of this group? Or how?
I want to talk about that.
Okay.
I want to, before we talk about that, because I do want to talk about how we're going to communicate back to the full group. One of our colleague Rick has offered us the entire ETAC Schoology site. So we'll be setting everybody up accounts. So look for that, and we will be able to post documents and resources there. So hopefully that doesn't get in your spam folder. So look for that. And so that will be a way that we can communicate. I am anticipating we can do some of this offline, but we may need to meet once more this summer to come together to finalize things, would everybody be available for another conversation like this, or
Oh, yeah.
2 and a half hours?
Do you want to try to calendar that before we all
We can do that.
disperse?
Yeah, we can do that. So that we can get it on everybody's calendars. I know with vacations and if anybody is not a 12-month employee, which if you're not, we are very grateful for you being with us today. And we, we'll want to see what we can do there. So that will be another piece. We do want to talk about how we're going to communicate this with the full. I don't think we'll have another full meeting with the ETAC until September. Is that right, Mary?
After the July, we're having one. July 19th.
July 9th. Oh my, is that next week?
Yes.
We do?
19th, right?
Yep.
The 19th?
Next week. Yep.
Oh, look at that.
Summer flies
It's
quick.
so Wednesdays are my computer-based testing days, so it's like 4 hours of computer-based, so that's where it is. It's like in there. And, okay, so
So do
great.
we want to, is it reasonable to say we can have anything ready for that meeting to report out?
We can.
No.
We can report out.
That's a week away.
We can,
A week from when?
report out
That
what
we met.
that we met,
And
that
what
we
we
have
discussed.
that we have
Right.
some initial
Action
steps.
items.
Yeah.
Can we ask for a spokesperson from this group? Would anybody be willing to be the voice of this subcommittee? Think about it. No need to volunteer at this moment, but we would love a
I don't want to take
chair.
something that other people want to do.
No.
But I'm always
You
good
just
at
volunteered.
speaking.
Sarah, I love it.
You don't know this about me.
Thanks, Sarah.
Unless anybody else is
We're just going to wait for somebody else to leave
Maria?
whoever left the room first.
Maria's very good at
do you
articulating this
do you
as
want
well.
to be the do you want to be the co-chair,
The co-spokesperson.
the co-spokesperson? All right.
Spokespeople.
Mm-hmm.
So
All right, that sounds good.
if you could just let everybody, and we'll write it up and get you the notes and
Okay.
everything, but just to write that up. I will possibly have information to share with people, but I'm not going to guarantee that because
That's fine.
meetings might not happen. But on tech literacy, so that if anybody is also wanting to be a part of that may be an update for the full group. But tech plans, then we'll just report out to the full group, and then we should meet.
How soon, like the end of July or?
Can we work backwards?
Sure.
When does something need to
Right.
be live and published for people to interact with? October?
When do districts lift their heads from the beginning of school?
I would say mid-October.
Mid-October? Mid-October?
And that's
In October, January.
January,
They're
you're
very,
getting
very
geared up for
heavily,
testing.
heavily immersed in the
immersed.
budget process in October.
They
And
are.
when they lift their head up, that's where they're lifting it up
It
into
is.
Yeah, okay.
budget.
The conference day usually in the middle of
Yeah.
October.
Right.
All right. So we should we aim for mid-October to have guidance out?
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to do it right then.
Guidance by mid-October. And when?
There is, yes, I'm sorry.
It's right up there.
Yeah. Oh.
Sorry,
There's some.
And what about, when do we want to set some idea of when we would want to open up the portal to collect the plan?
So that's a good point. Do we need guidance out because planning processes will begin in October?
Right. And when they're due the following October, is that right?
Well,
No, the plan is supposed to cover, July 1.
right. Yeah, but we're not going to make it due July 1. It can be,
They can submit it after that date.
right.
That's how it's been in the past, right?
Yeah, so how we've been doing it, I don't know, Sarah, you can talk to that, but how we've been doing it is the RICs are generally making it due to them by mid-end of June, so they're getting it before districts leave. because of the due date in October. October 1st was the due date.
Due date
so
last year.
it gave us the summer to go back and forth with 50, 60, 120 schools to get that. And it took all summer because people were in and out, you know.
Otherwise, you have to remind your email, hey.
I also heard there was a suggestion afoot, which I thought was kind of good, which I'm sure you've heard. I think it came from Camille, to stagger them.
It came from several directors.
Yeah, to stagger them or find a different process. It's just impossible. You know, so it just takes too many primary people off their core mission to do these plans.
So let's separate process.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's a separate issue.
So let's back it up then. Let's aim for guidance in September.
Okay. September 1st or the end of September?
The middle of September.
Okay.
They might get lost in the shuffle the first couple of weeks.
It will. Don't worry. We're just gonna. Somebody will remind people.
Okay.
What you mean?
So guidance by the middle of September. Okay.
It is. It's going to be part of our committee, yeah.
The committee.
So let's just say Friday the 15th, just because it's smack dab in the middle, and that will be our deadline to have things ready to go by that following Monday.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if we can have, by the 15th, we need revised survey and guidance documents. We should probably...
If that's the case, then I would say having a due date of June 30th that's not undoable for school districts. If they have to have it to their RIC by April 1. That's not undoable.
Right.
To actually have them.
We can talk about that. Yeah, we can talk about that later. We just need to get.
For now,
don't. Let's not worry about due date. Let's worry about what we're going to do this summer. So do we want one more meeting or two more meetings to do this? Would people rather work here, or would we rather do things offline and then come back together?
Well, if you're going to have this Subcommittee platform ready, you know, I don't know if it's there's not sharing that we can all work together, right?
Yeah, I guess. I've never used it.
I would say.
The survey's not due until.
Well, maybe if should we just set the next meeting and then at that point determine if we really need to meet again this summer?
We can do that.
When we come with something already created
By
for
then.
the next meeting, and then we can sort out.
I worry that if you don't carve out the time, people won't work on it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be the elephant in the room. Speak for myself.
Yeah.
And my reply to you about the district website, around your website, I have like 7 half-crafted emails in my draft for you. I never finished it, so carving out
I've
the
got
time
3
is
of them
helpful.
too.
Yeah, carving out the time is really helpful.
Okay, so let's say, what is everybody doing the
31st?
I was going to say, I can't do the 31st.
Oh.
Or the 1st, because that's Distance Learning
Oh.
Consortium. The 3rd?
August?
August?
Of that to be here.
You're not.
No.
But I can join remotely, or I can, if there's a document that we're all going to be working on, I can jump in.
Yeah, we'll be working it,
Monday the 7th?
I have a meeting in the morning, but a budget meeting with my leadership. But
I'm going to be in Washington.
are you?
You're going to be in Washington on the 3rd. What about the 7th?
I can make this a shorter meeting.
I can do the 3rd.
I can do the 3rd.
You can do the 3rd?
Yeah.
3rd would be all right.
3rd? Can you join us remotely?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say the 3rd. 2 to 4 again? 1 to 4?
I'll try my best. I'm going to be with Google Innovator Academy.
Oh.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah. That is.
Maybe do 1 to 4 so we have work time.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Does that work?
Yeah.
1 to 4.
1 to
And we'll
4.
plan in the meantime to have work done, you know, a lot of work done in between.
Yeah.
While you guys are co-chairs or whatever you want to call yourselves. You can create titles, some kind of fancy techie title.
Arena of
Ooh.
tech planning.
All right. Like Wonder Woman.
I love that.
Marianne, you can get
I want t-shirts.
Oh, badges.
Yes,
Badges.
even better.
Room?
invites out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll invite everybody.
Great.
One
All right.
before August 3rd.
You want to
August
schedule
3rd.
one more?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do one more.
Yep.
Let's do, how soon is too close to school? The 24th, is that too close to school?
When does school start? When is Labor Day? I don't even know.
I can't do the 24th.
Can't do the 24th. Can you do any time that week? 22nd?
The 22nd.
I can. I have that same meeting. I have to reschedule, but I
24th
11,
or 22nd, Middlebrook, which is our retreat for superintendent.
Oh.
All right. 21st?
21st.
no, I can't do the 21st.
Okay.
Like this? Does anyone do Friday?
I'm gone.
How about the week before?
Okay.
Or will that be
No,
too
that's on
soon?
vacation week.
Oh.
All right, 28th. Monday the 28th?
I can't do that day either.
All right.
Well, actually, I could have done the week before. Sorry. I know.
Yeah,
15th?
would work.
How's the 15th?
August.
August, I got, okay, 16th of August.
Yeah, it has to be the afternoon for me.
That works.
All right.
We'll make it 1 to 4.
1 to
too.
4 again?
And if we finish
Okay.
early, we finish early.
Good thing we're getting them on the calendar now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
True.
I know, that's,
Yeah.
okay.
Got it.
Wonderful.
Yep. And the Schoology site is going to be available right away.
I'm getting it set up tomorrow.
Oh.
So we'll get that, and then we'll get all the notes up there, and we'll start
Okay.
that. I'm very excited. I've actually
Yeah.
never used Schoology.
No, neither have I. Has anybody used it?
We have,
I have, yeah.
We have two
I've
very
used it.
on just this year, Mount
Mhm.
Vernon and White Plains. Two of our biggest districts are going on.
Are going Schoology?
Yeah.
That's great.
No, for us.
I've used many other platforms, but not that one.
It's good.
Is it
It
good?
is
Yeah,
very
is it
nice.
good?
It's
It's
evolved.
very nice. They're
The,
nifty, they're
The kids that started it came from one of our high schools, and they met with us, I don't know, I'm going to say 8 years ago. And they came and I said, where have you been? And I guess west of the Mississippi, they've done a lot of sales. And they said the product wasn't developed well enough for us to bring it in the east because our parents were going to see it. And then they didn't have any services, at that time. They were giving everything away for free and really didn't have any, there wasn't a role for a BOCES or a RIC. It has really evolved nicely.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
No,
very
I'm
happy for
excited.
them. They're from Rye.
It was a big, nice thing for them to do.
Yeah.
So the August 15th is also at 1?
Yeah.
1 to 4, yep.
Wonderful.
They'll both be 1 to 4.
That's who's my phone.
What is that?
Marianne will send invitations.
Yeah, I'll send invitations out, yeah.
And we'll probably be, if you can join us in person, we'll probably be in this room again.
Yeah, I'll talk to Donna.
Yeah. All right.
No, we need to make sure we see.
Well, we really appreciate it. Thank you all so much.
Yes.
If you think of anything, we'll start a conversation in our Schoology site, and we can continue this. I know that we have to start with the vision piece, but then we can ask for assistance in the other things, and we'll get guidance out in September. That'll be exciting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Nice to be here in person.
Yes.
Yeah.